for joining us for today's event. I'm Steve Thompson, and I'll be hosting today's panel around a Microsoft-inspired debrief, specifically focusing on modern work. So as many of you know, Microsoft kind of kicks off their new fiscal year, which starts July 1st, with a number of events where they really focus energy on new announcements, on new programs, new opportunities for both customers and partners. Historically, July has always been the month where they do this sort of internal navel gazing, right? Whether it's MGB or MGX for the internal sales force, whether it's Worldwide Partner Conference, as it used to be known, or even the very cleverly named Stampede when it came to the Dynamics and the Great Plains business. All of that is sort of morphed into Inspire. So both internally and externally with partners and customers now, it's really a kickoff event that Microsoft loves to use to sort of tout the different elements that they're doing, the investments, the innovation, and all of that. And it was a virtual event again this year, which I know from firsthand experience can be just really overwhelming. I think we all have the best of intentions when it comes to attending virtual events, but when they span hours and days and have pre-days and afterwards kinds of events, it's really, really a challenge because you're still sort of in your own business. Historically, for whether it's a Microsoft event like this or Oracle World or whatever it might be, you were physically transported to a different place and sort of had no option than to move along with the herd and get your lunch for 10,000 in a giant conference room ballroom and conference center ballroom and sort of participate with pretty rapt attention. It's a lot tougher now. And so one of the things that we wanted to do with both Apex and Total Solutions is take our team and really say, hey, what was important, put a lens on it from your perspective as a customer, knowing our customers the way we do, and try and hit some of those key announcements, get a little bit behind the scenes on some of the investments that are being made, frankly, provide a little perspective, right? Saying, hey, this is really cool, but here's what you need to think about as a customer as you look to engage and really start to incorporate this innovation into your own environment. So we sat through it for you. We actually combed through a lot of materials as well, and most importantly, I think found a couple of folks who can really help us navigate some of the announcements and some of what's new. So with that, let's bring on Sean Flahie, the CTO at Apex, and Matt Fleszar, who is the CEO over at Total Solutions. Both of these gentlemen are in technology and solution leadership roles. And guys, it's really a pleasure to have you today.
Great to be here. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, Steve.
So with that, let's go ahead and dive in. I mean, I think both in pop culture as well as in our technology world, everybody's talking about artificial intelligence, to the point they're even talking about whether that's the right term anymore, but we'll probably let that one lie for now. And core to our world were some of the AI and CoPilot announcements for M365. So, maybe Sean, I'll start with you and just say they made a lot of announcements. They talked a lot about it, up until the point they're even talking about how they're going to charge us for it. So maybe just take that and start wherever you like. Kind of what was your impression with the CoPilot launch?
Yeah, I think I'll start out with just kind of explaining what CoPilot really is in the Microsoft world. So CoPilot is kind of the brand name, if you want to call it that Microsoft is using to infuse artificial intelligence into a lot of its existing products. And so we're talking about specifically Microsoft 365 CoPilot, which infuses AI into a lot of the Microsoft 365 workloads, such as Microsoft Teams, Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, Excel. There's other Copilot products that are out there that have been announced as well, such as Sales Copilot for CRM and Dynamics. There's Security Copilot for a lot of the security workloads that Microsoft has. But like I said, specifically, the Microsoft 365 Copilot is the one that had the most announcements at Inspire. I think the biggest one, I won't bury the lead here, they announced pricing, right? $30 per user per month for Microsoft 365 Copilot. So I know there's a lot of different perspectives on that price point and what value that provides, but I want to toss it over to Matt to kind of get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, that's definitely the big announcement. It was the first Inspire. Inspire always has a theme, and Microsoft is always moving us forward. But this year, I was blown away at how narrow the focus was on AI in the Microsoft solutions. And Copilot's interesting. I think it's good we have a price point. Number one, right? That helps us understand what it's going to take. But we had I was with a group of folks last week, a group of executives, and we were showing them some of this new stuff, and the price point was the last thing on their mind. It was, when can I have this? Not necessarily for the entire organization even, but for them, because some of the basic tools to be able to infuse AI into your email being a huge one, right? Or your teams, just really simple things that ultimately bring a lot of value. So I know that everybody's excited about it. I know I want to get my hands on it. I do not have access to it yet to be able to play with it and use it, which I'm very excited to do. But it's definitely the next big shift. And from the perspective of watching what Microsoft's doing and them helping us pay attention to where we need to be paying attention to, I think the message was pretty clear this year, which is that it's the next big thing for all of us as partners to help clients with in terms of enabling this in their organizations.
So how do you guys think about, so it sounds like it's a bit of a transformation, right? I think historically you started to see AI or machine learning creep into products, right? And say, hey, I'm going to make this task a little bit easier, or I'm going to, you could even say something as silly as proposing meeting times, right? Like there's some element that has crept in already, but now it's really being called out as something separate. I guess what's your coaching to customers thinking about not just the price point, but saying that this is something as an add-on versus something they're building into the platform? And maybe if I get you to get your crystal balls out, maybe 3 or 4 years from now, maybe we're not talking about it as an add-on anymore. I'm just kind of curious, like it seems like it's a bit of a transition.
Yeah, so it's interesting. My personal opinion on this is that in 3 years, we're not going to be talking about it so much as an add-on. I don't have a crystal ball to know that from a Microsoft product perspective, but and Satya mentioned this in the keynote, the speed of the diffusion of this technology broadly, market-wide, is extremely fast, right? A year ago, we had nothing. Now we have a ton of AI everywhere, right? So I think competitive products to Microsoft, all of the Microsoft suite, you're going to see the features come on board really across the map. And I think that from a customer perspective, from a business perspective, within a couple of years, this is just like the cloud is now business as usual. There's no competitive different advantage to a customer A being in the cloud versus customer B. I think you'll see the same thing with AI in I don't know, within the 5-year range, something like that. It's moving quick.
Yeah, Matt, that makes a ton of sense. But Sean, I'm kind of torn, right? I think Microsoft historically has gone both directions on this stuff, where just to show my age, something like Windows Terminal Server eventually goes away and just becomes core to the server product. And then at the same time, other features have been spun out and are a different check to write for the long term. I guess, how do you're starting to have conversations with customers, and it's really almost more about adoption these days than anything else, right? Hey, does this work for me? Or I have to QA this technology, is sort of replaced by, how do I adopt it? How do I make it a part of what I do every day? How are you thinking about even starting to coach customers around this?
Yeah, I think to kind of echo Matt's statement, it's coming and we need to be ready for it, right? I don't think with as much investment that as Microsoft is placing in this, with the competitive marketplace of Google and Amazon and all the other major players out there making huge plays and investments into artificial intelligence and integrating with their products, we can't ignore it, right? That's number one. Number two, we need to understand, how does it affect our organization, and how do we protect our most vital assets and our data in our organization? So that's another thing that guidance is being trickled out from Microsoft as to how to prepare your data and how to prepare your tenants and your organizations for this suite of tools. And more will come out over the coming months on that as well. And so, that's the main thing, is just start preparing your organization, start communicating to your organization that this is coming. And we need to be ready to start testing it out and making sure how it's going to fit in our organizations when it's here.
Yeah, I don't know that I've ever seen something move this fast, Matt. I mean, do you have any context to put this in? I mean, you come from, a slightly different perspective maybe than the core of Apex. When you think about, development and, those kinds of solutions and some of the custom apps, is there any corollary to how fast this is coming for customers? Is this the change from, Visual Basic to, C++? I don't know how to relate it in your world. What has gone this fast?
I think Sean made a good point, right? Microsoft put $10 billion into OpenAI, into their partnership with AI, which fundamentally bought them the right to be first to market with this technology from an enterprise perspective. And I don't want to say it's not important, because I think it's critically important to get on board with. But I just think, like you said, I think it's moved. No, I have not seen anything move this fast, and I'm a digital native, quote unquote, right? I'd be curious with Sean about this, because I pride myself on being very technologically savvy with just digital tools in general. It is hard to use these tools. It's hard to train yourself to rely on them when you're used to doing it the old way. And my experiences that I've had in terms of trying to engineer my prompts and get good information and useful results back out has been challenging at times. It's not been perfect, right? So, Sean, have you had a similar experience in terms of trying to use this stuff and getting results from it?
Absolutely. I mean, I've basically built an entire career out of the old way, right? And now all of a sudden, that's being flipped on its head, and AI and chat prompts and things like that can do a lot of these smaller tasks that I used to do for me, or in an easier way. So, it's definitely going to be a lot of learning right here up front. But you were talking about crystal ball earlier, Steve. 3-4 years, we may be looking at, that's just the way we work now, right? It's just part of our daily work, and it's not such a big topic anymore. It's just part of it.
It reminds me that on the consumer side, Steve, the closest thing that just like pops in my head that I think of is like flat screen TVs, right? One day, flat screen TVs came out, and then you blinked in a couple of years and every single person had one, and you couldn't buy a old school tube TV anymore, right? And it didn't happen as fast as the AI is moving, but it happened pretty quick. And that's the sort of shift. And now look at how much it costs to buy a flat screen TV. It's a lot cheaper than it was 10 years ago. So I do think you'll see that simply back to pricing again. You may see some adjustments there. Microsoft does a great job. This is a nice way to say it. A great job of listening to the feedback from the customers and the partners when they launch something big and new like this. So we know we'll see some change in terms of how you get access to various pieces and parts, but you also know that the stuff that's super valuable that moves the needle there will be an additional cost for it. So I think it's going to be worth it. I'm going to buy all of it that I can for our organization to start using as soon as we can. I think everybody's just wondering exactly when's that date going to come where I can get the AI features of CoPilot in Microsoft 365. So we're excited.
And maybe that's a good last question sort of on this topic for either of you. I mean, where are we at, announcement versus, inner ring, outer ring, beta, production? Like, where are we at with this stuff? Because I saw a lot of cool stuff. I've seen some things creep in already into our tenant, Sean. I mean, like, where are we at on this continuum of hype versus reality?
Yeah. To kind of from where we came earlier in the year, Matt mentioned the investment Microsoft made into OpenAI. That was back in December, January timeframe. About March of this year, 2023, Microsoft announced the CoPilot and a lot of the features of CoPilot. May, it was announced they're starting the early adopter program with about 600 customers in this program. And here we are in July getting pricing on what these licenses might look like. So I don't have any firm dates of when we might get our hands on this, but my assumption based on the trend it's been going this year, we're looking at about Q3, mid to end Q3, early Q4 of this year, when we'll see commercially available. And that's just a guess, right? That's just based on what I'm seeing coming from Microsoft this year.
I think that's a safe estimation, especially just based on the interest. Like I said, I showed this to some people last week. It was, okay, what do I have to buy to get this now? And my answer was, you can't buy this now, which is a terrible answer to give a prospective customer, right? But so I think Microsoft knows that they're going to move as quick as they can.
Yeah, gone are the days of 3 years between Office releases, guys. I think I don't think we're going to see that return. You kind of mentioned how this stuff is creeping into everything, and I've got in my notes to kind of cue up a conversation around Bing in the enterprise, right? Bing Chat, what they're bringing to the table there, how it's adjacent to or somewhat similar for Microsoft 365. Could one of you grab the ball and kind of run with just like what are the basics here in this solution space?
Sean, you want to pick it up?
Yeah, I think I'll start. We've been talking about a lot of that Microsoft investment in OpenAI, and one of the first to market products that Microsoft put out there was the integration of GPT-4 in Bing Chat, right? GPT enhanced search from Bing, right, is what we'll call it. And that was really, bing.com/chat. Anybody can access it right now and start using it. And there was a big concern about enterprises that have begun to use that tool in their daily work, and what that, how can we protect our organizational data in that tool set? And that's where Microsoft has announced Bing Chat for Enterprise will be enabled in all commercial tenants beginning in early to middle to August. So that's something to be prepared for. The main difference between Bing Chat and Bing Chat for Enterprise is Microsoft has given us assurances that our data will be protected. It will not be shared with any outside parties, and it will also not be leveraged to train the AI models as well. So I think that's a key point here of what the main differences are between Bing Chat and Bing Chat Enterprise. But just something to be ready for. It's coming to commercial tenants very soon.
Matt, opening salvo before I kind of answer, or ask the next question, or is that a good foundation?
That's a good foundation. I think the interesting thing for me is we were watching Inspire as a team, and they announced Bing Chat for Enterprise, and they list these guarantees, right? I'm going to repeat them because this is really important. User and business data is secured, so it will not leak outside the organization. The chat data is not used to train the underlying AI models, and Microsoft does not have access to your chat data. And one of the folks on our team, immediate response, yeah, right, was what they said, which is funny. He was trying to be funny, right? He was not being serious. We believe Microsoft, but I also noticed this year at Inspire, and maybe I missed this last year, but that when Microsoft's talking about their mission statement, they've added core pillars to their mission statement, and one of those is trust in technology. And so Bing Chat Enterprise, I believe this one you do not have to pay $30 a month to get. If you're an enterprise customer with an E3 or an E5, you're gonna have, like you said, Sean, it's gonna get turned on unless you turn it off. We turned it on the other day. I started using it a little bit. It's very interesting. It's definitely the all those organizations out there that said no chat GPT. We're banning any AI use whatsoever as an organization. A lot of that is motivated by the fact that you prompt the AI with a problem that has names and data that's confidential or sensitive to the organization, and now it's somebody else can get that data in their chat prompt as well. And so, we kind of entered into the Bing Chat foray with, hey, use it, be careful, do not put anything sensitive in there, right? And so that was our guidance. But now where we can say, hey, put sensitive stuff in there. So I've tried to use it a little bit, do some problem solving with some actual client examples. Again, moderate success, still learning the tool, but it is, I think, the very exciting basic kind of, entry level. You want to have AI chat as generative AI chat as a part of your work experience, where it can access all that data that's kind of in the open model, as well as some of your corporate data. That's what you're getting there. So excited for it. I want to get better at it. I want to get better at crafting it. That's my personal goal.
Yeah, so I kind of follow this stuff at a like a meta level, right? So I'm not, in the weeds, in the code like you guys are with specific implementations. But one of the conundrums seems to be that you would want an enterprise's model to learn from the stuff they're doing, but then not share that with everybody else's model. So are we headed towards a day where the large language model is also going to include a component where it learns your world too? That's sort of fascinating to me, because you're right. I don't want the Apex searches, informing my competitors, but it would be kind of nice if internally, every time somebody searched for, where is Michael's latest PowerPoint deck on, this marketing thing, that it got smarter over time, that every time it presents answers, I always pick this one, those kinds of things. So it's kind of a catch-22 in that, they want to train it for the enterprise, but they really can't in a big, meaningful way right now.
I think quick answer to that, CoPilot. And the reason why I say that is I've seen a couple of graphics out there from the announcements that kind of talks about Microsoft's generative AI journey and product catalog, so to speak. Really, there's only 3 of them that I've seen right now. Bing Chat, right? Bing Chat Enterprise, and then CoPilot. And the difference between Bing Chat Enterprise and CoPilot is CoPilot looks at your Microsoft 365 data and your tenant and can pull information about Michael's PowerPoint deck that he just created. Bing Chat Enterprise has no connection to your tenant whatsoever to see any of your SharePoint data.
Fun fact, I thought it did that when I started using it, and I was like, why is this not giving me back organizational data, right? So that's a good point, Sean.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. So it's really almost a branding exercise. They're saying, hey, your stuff, CoPilot, everybody's stuff, but still integrated with that enterprise experience, right? It's not Bing.com. It is the Bing Enterprise chat experience.
Think of it this way too, Steve. I could, I thought I could go to Bing Chat Enterprise and say, hey, go look at this spreadsheet with this data about these estimates and build me a project plan. And it, failed miserably because it doesn't have access to it. But I could long form type in, here's the customer name, and I could use the real name. Here's the names of the 4 developers involved, put their names in, put the actual hours in, put all the information in, and try to have it do that problem solving for me in the Bing Chat Enterprise engine. It was unsuccessful for my complex one that I tried to get it to do, but it got like halfway through it. So I think when you give it a more, a more integrated data set that's managed as opposed to just a natural language prompt, that's where you're going to see more powerful generative results with the CoPilot for sure.
So one of the reasons we were so excited to have Matt join us is his world sort of encompasses Power Platform, Power BI, and that whole space. And there's a CoPilot, Fabric, process mining story over there. Why don't you do what we've done before here a couple of times and just sort of kick off the conversation with a level set, right? What am I talking about? And what are some of the things that you saw that were new last week?
Sure. So there's a lot happening in that space. There's I don't want to get too deep into the techno babble about it. And with with a lot of these things, Steve, we do not have these live yet. Some of this stuff is really bleeding edge tools that we're not going to be implementing right now on clients' engagements, but that we hope to in the near future, right? So because we do a lot of Power Platform work. So the first one was that Power Automate process mining, which is very similar to a lot of the Copilot stuff. You're really talking about AI being infused into your processes that you're building with Power Automate. So this is giving you an out-of-the-box way to apply the process mining tool, visualize your process, and it'll find essentially inefficiencies in your process, find insights as to where you could improve the process in terms of the amount of just basic logic on the number of times that an operation runs, where you could make stuff more efficient. So that's pretty cool. We don't have those sorts of tools right now. You kind of have to just be a really good programmer, a developer, and be good at logic in order to build efficient apps. So I think that's going to be helpful for empowering those app builders and makers maybe in the organization that aren't as adept, didn't come from a true coding background, but are trying to build some maybe some power platform or Power Automate stuff.
So is it finally going to help deliver on that promise? Because for someone like myself, I think you're describing me very aptly, right? Which is like, I can verbalize what I want. Show me all the times that customers did X, bought Y, and had a sales cycle less than a month. And if that happens, let's send them a follow-up email with a Starbucks gift card, whatever that process might look like. Like, I can describe it in my head, but
Sure.
I really struggle to capture it in the platform.
So that sort of example is going to touch more on the other two tools that are kind of in this box that I'm drawing around Power Platform AI stuff. So that's the Microsoft Fabric and the Power BI Copilot stuff. To me, the Power Automate process mining, very applicable for somebody who is a developer and bringing them that AI assistant in how they're improving their app. If you're more of a business power user who wants to analyze data that's not just data about the app, but pick your source of data, that's where the Microsoft Fabric tool has a lot of big promises, and where the Power BI Copilot working with that Fabric tool is promises the ability to do what you just said. Go look at this data, build me a report, tell me what insights I need to know, sort of thing. That's the promise that we saw in action very, very quickly with really, really speedy demos, right? With it's all catered, right? And so we haven't done this in real life yet, but the Fabric tool in particular, I think, super valuable. We're talking about some of the ETL capabilities to bring the data in, and then ultimately some of the Synapse capabilities for data engineering in a single software as a service place. So kind of like single pane of glass, if you will, for keeping the data clean part. Because I think to the point, once you point AI at organizational data, just like the old saying, it's on the internet, it must be true, right? So if it exists in your organizational data, it must be true, right? AI doesn't know the difference. So if you're going to use any sort of customized copilots, going beyond the stuff that's out of the box from Microsoft 365, building the Apex Copilot for your person on your sales team to help do their job, you might be pulling in data from other external sources, engineering that data, and then wanting to run reports on that. So the Fabric tool, it's all about unifying that data, getting power users, data engineers, same spot to collaborate on it, and bringing some of those tools that were previously disparate Azure data engineering tools and ETL tools together. And then the Power BI Copilot, that's the one, just what you said, the promise to prompt it with, go look at this data, go build me some insights and reports, and have it just produce those for you, as opposed to having to do quite as much work in the Power BI application itself.
So Matt lays out a really interesting kind of roadmap around that space. And I know both of you guys kind of want to revisit something we've touched on a little bit, which is, a lot of what we do is advisory, right? A lot of what we do is, working with customers and things like that. There's a slew of announcements. I guess the adjacent question I'd ask is prioritization, right? So Matt, Sean, like, how do you help customers think about taking, these announcements that we've talked about already? We've got a couple more to go, where they're at in their development cycle. How do you match that to like the business critical needs and try and build them a roadmap? Like, is it mostly informed by technology availability? Is it informed by the kind of business or their maturity? Like, how do you put those pieces together?
I would just say that from a I see it in two lenses. When it comes to Bing Chat Enterprise and Microsoft 365 Copilot, there needs to be a roadmap in terms of how you're going to implement and deal with this stuff. It doesn't have to, and again, these are relatively simple tools to turn on technically. So you're not talking about thousands of dollars from a implementer to light the stuff up, but you are talking about a heavier cost when it comes to training your people on how to use them and how not to use them. So I think that's where you're going to see the biggest need is planning for the change management of this in your organization. I would honestly say on a lot of the other stuff, it's too early to build a roadmap for some of these things. If you had a priority today for Microsoft 365 that was enable better hybrid workrooms at our office, it's probably still going to be your priority tomorrow. And you're going to add a dealing with AI on top of it, right? We don't want to necessarily get knocked off. We're running towards the end zone. We don't want to just turn around and run towards the other end zone, right? We want to keep driving on our priorities as an organization. So I think it's mostly educational and stuff that you're going to see coming. And it's helpful to know that some of these big dreams and big picture ideas that we have are possible in the kind of in the future roadmap of where Microsoft is going.
So Sean, Matt made a couple of references I love. The first one being Jim Marshall and the Vikings and him going the wrong way for a touchdown. But the second one is, he mentioned things like, Teams rooms and, hybrid collaboration and those kinds of things. Do you agree that, hey, let's not try and turn this ship every 4 minutes is one of the core pieces that you try and relate to customers as well?
Absolutely. I mean, we learned so many lessons over the past 3 or 4 years with the pandemic and other things. And a lot of those things we're still trying to improve upon the work experience and what truly means a hybrid work experience and what is going to be most engaging for all of our employees, partners, customers, things like that. So there's still a roadmap and there's still a vision for that. And we have to stay the course there, absolutely, to create that, productive, hybrid, engaging experience, keeping security at top of mind and all of that as well. But now adding AI on top of it is another thing we have to think about. I've seen a lot of customers, starting like AI committees, either within IT or within the larger business as well, to really, like Matt said, be on top of this up front. Even though a lot of these features aren't available yet to actually physically touch and use, these concepts are out there. The knowledge and the learning is out there to start learning about it today. So I'm starting to see that with a lot of customers these days.
So speaking of that space, I also had it in my notes to bring up the topic of of shared calling, right? We talk here at Apex. We talk a lot about this hybrid experience and collaboration. Microsoft's invested a lot in the completeness of the experience, and this one's been kind of hovering out there to say, what if I just want a phone to be here and people answer it when it rings? And so again, maybe just do the level set thing. So what did we hear? What's coming, what's here, what's near term in that space?
Yeah, obviously this is more of a specific announcement, a feature specific announcement of Teams Phone and Teams Calling versus what we were just talking about with AI, much bigger topic, right? But yeah, this one, I'm pretty excited about this one. So Teams obviously is a huge platform, and calling and PSTN calling is one of the main features of this platform that's available. We have lots of customers moving from traditional legacy on-premises phone systems to Microsoft Teams Phone and calling in the cloud, so to speak. And one of the things that customers are finding is when they would move their users to the cloud, everyone would get a DID or a phone number when they signed up for Teams calling. And this hasn't always been the case with traditional on-premises phone systems. I think back to on-premises phone systems where I may have had 100 users, but I had 25 call paths, right? Meaning I'm going to have 25 concurrent calls at any given time, and everyone is enabled for phone calls, but may not have a specific DID. Maybe they just have an extension or something like that. But to talk about this feature specifically, team shared calling, what this means is I'm able to have multiple users share a single DID or phone number, meaning I might assign that phone number to an auto attendant or maybe a call queue, and an outside party can call that number. And then you might have 10 different people sitting behind that phone number that can take calls in that aspect. And then they can also make outbound calls leveraging that same shared phone number as well. So this may be a way to invest in Teams calling at a cheaper price point because you're not actually paying for a phone number or for a DID for every single user in your organization. Maybe you can have multiple groups that share a single phone number. Thus, you can cut down your cost quite a bit. So this is likely I'm pretty excited about this because I think it's a better price point and better entry point for a lot of organizations to get into this if cost was a prohibitor before.
No, that's very cool, and it's funny for those of us who've been in the Microsoft ecosystem for a while, in that no matter how hard you shake it, sometimes users are users and sometimes devices are devices, right? That there's a reason that dichotomy existed for so long. So Matt, not so much in your necessarily your target zone for your own solutions over there at Total Solutions, but hey, you're a user too. Where do you look at sort of the evolution of voice as another data stream and these sort of personal things that people are doing, and bringing that into your world of sentiment analysis and some of those other things? And frankly, I guess I don't know what the answer to this question is. Are there things that inspire or things that are recently announced in your space that continue to build on your ability to tap things like voice and video as part of the solution you bring to bear that historically has been PDFs on a SharePoint site? I'm just kind of curious how you look to utilize this stuff as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think we continue to see Teams as that single pane of glass for the end user of the enterprise, right? So one of the tools that we've been doing a lot more with lately, Microsoft Viva, right in Teams, right? We're starting to use Viva Goals as our OKR setting tool for our organization, which is it's pretty cool. After we started to use it a little bit, this is the first time we did strategic planning as a team, as an executive team, and used that as opposed to some of our more Excel-oriented ways of tracking our 90-day objectives for the organization, right? So, but having that just integrated right into the experience is very cool. It's interesting when it comes to you kind of alluded to that per user, like everything has gone per user, right, over the past 5-10 years. And not everything makes sense on a per user like value logic, right? It doesn't always make sense. Like that's a benefit to the organization, not to the user. Why do I have to pay per user for that? I don't know that you're seeing Microsoft relent like across the board on that at all, but there's some things, right? So I think this Teams shared calling is a great example where they're saying, you don't need to have everybody licensed, right? Just you be a little bit more frugal. You saw that on some cybersecurity stuff, I think the week before Inspire, where Microsoft announced that you're going to get critical purview, so security logging. You're not going to have to pay for the higher level license tiers for that. You'll get that included at some of the other, I think all license tiers pretty much, which is, yeah, why should I have to pay more to know that there is a cybersecurity threat happening in my logs, right? Maybe I don't get the CoPilot to tell me about it, but I at least can go, get alerts on it and go find it and know that it's happening more quickly. So, but you still see little things like Sean mentioned security. So you're talking about maybe some zero trust architecture, and let's get into some sensitivity labeling and some data loss prevention rules around data in the organization. If you want to have those apply to team chats, you're talking about the higher level license SKU now, right? So you still have these little pockets where you talk to customers and we're talking about DLP, which is kind of the holy grail of every CISO's package for addressing cybersecurity threats, is do not leak data out of the organization. Tell me if something sensitive is leaking. But it's, you're consulting with them through this. And of course, we're covering SharePoint and OneDrive and email, which is, these are huge areas for sharing information in the organization. Well, people just chat stuff back and forth on Teams now, right? And so your team's channels are covered because those are basically email threads, right? But if you want to get into the one-on-one chats, the two-on-one chats, and do DLP on that, you need that higher level license use. So you're seeing still little pockets like that where we try to get out ahead of that in terms of building the roadmap, and that's why it's important to spend the time and energy, I think, figuring out what it is that you want to get into and the full extent of where you want to go. But yeah, there's always little fun surprises still on the modern work side where there's a lot. You take away everything that got announced on Inspire yesterday, and there's still a lot of priorities that we're following up with in that cybersecurity space, in that hybrid collaboration space, just getting people's apps modernized to Power Platform, let alone then applying automated process mining to those apps in Power Platform. So there's a lot of work to get to this, the promised land that we're still engaged in with clients day in, day out. But yeah, Teams is here to stay. That's for sure. I'd hate to be Zoom right now.
It's not the destination, it's the journey, right, guys? Right? We're always on the journey. So the last thing I just wanted to bring up and get your thoughts on is sort of the background to a lot of what we talked about, which is, AI and the market dynamics. I think it's, you guys talked about speed. I think it's fascinating to see how much of society is actually coming up to speed on their knowledge of this stuff relatively quickly. The fact that there is some measurable portion of the population that knows what a large language model is and kind of how it works and how it's helped, but like that's weird, right? That's a crazy notion, thinking a year ago that anyone besides Lex Friedman and 8 of us who listened to his podcast knew what the heck he was talking about, to now pretty much accepted in society. And so you guys briefly mentioned the OpenAI partnership, the $10 billion investment. I mean, again, I know you don't have a crystal ball, but, based on what you're seeing in the market, where do we go next? Is this the big players getting bigger? Is this disruption from somebody small? What are your thoughts just, from your own shares on this stuff?
That's interesting. Go ahead. You want to go first on this one, Sean?
No, go ahead, Matt.
I think it's a balance, right? We've kind of danced around this whole conversation around there's something big and new that we cannot avoid to deal with, and it's moving very quickly. How disruptive is it going to be? How much do we need to invest in that versus everything else, because we don't have unlimited time and money to put towards these platforms and the benefits that they bring to us, right? So it's a sticky wicket, honestly, Steve, in terms of figuring out where exactly is it going to go. I don't have a crystal ball, but Microsoft has if anybody's got one out of this room, it's them, right? And they talked about things like 10% GDP growth in the economy based on AI transformation. I know I mentioned the speed with which the technology is getting diffused throughout businesses. I know Mark Cuban says that every business, I think it's in 5 years, he says every business in 5 years will be an AI business or you won't be in business, sort of thing. So there's a lot of and you even have well-known business gurus out there. I'm thinking like the Jim Collinses of the world, right? Who talk about keeping pace with technology is something that you have to do. But yet where you really want to invest is in those special, unique cases where it brings a ton of direct value to what you do for your customers. AI covers both of those, right? So there's the stuff that everybody's going to have to get on board with. There's a lot of hype. The hype train is leaving the station, but we got to get on board because we trust in Microsoft and where they're leading us to a certain extent. It's going to change. We might not know exactly the end destination, but we being in the ecosystem definitely trust where they're going, and we have a job to help build that trust with our clients as well. So the humans got to stay in the loop. I think the branding that Sean alluded to, I think CoPilot itself is a genius branding strategy. I believe that a computer can launch and land a plane without a human being involved, but we don't let them do that. We have a pilot sitting, right? And that's the way you think about this technology as well. It's not going to take over. It's going to be your assistant for you, for others in your organization. And you can go full out trying to build custom applications of it for your organization that target really high value proposition areas. And you can also kind of just use the basics and make sure that it's integrated into the daily productivity and collaboration tasks that your people do. I think that last one is the one that is a year from now, it's not going to be a question of if we're going that direction. That's going to be the standard across a lot of our clientele. That's probably the main one. The other one is a little TBD, but we know that some customers are going to make that leap, and we're excited to get some of those opportunities to do some of that customized working with the AI models and bringing that into all sorts of fun data sets that our clients have.
Yeah,
interesting.
I think the value of what AI can bring is so unrealized right now, right? Just because a lot of these tools haven't been released yet, but I feel once these tools get released and everyone, the smart people in the rooms get their hands on them, there's going to be some amazing things that comes out of this. One of the main focuses of this announcement of $30 per user per month, just from a simple math conversation, wow, that's going to add a lot to my monthly licensing bill or whatnot. And on the flip side, there's arguments of, well, if you have one person taking meeting notes for an hour after one meeting this week, how much did that cost, right? And yes, that's a slippery slope on how you're trying to justify that $30. But I think it's much bigger than that, right? We can't just think about it as this is just one more product I'm going to have. It's $30, and then we're going to have to budget for it. It's how can this truly transform the way my employees work? How can this truly transform how my business goes to market? And how can we gain an advantage by using these tools on top of that?
No, I think that's super insightful. And for whatever reason, going back many, many years, does IT matter? And that sort of notion that it's always a cost saving, cost center kind of structure is tricky, right? Because there's, all you can ever do is take costs to zero. What you have unlimited ability to do is grow the top line, right? Employees being more productive, more creative, more innovative, all those kinds of things. And so it's an interesting discussion to navigate, right? Because like you said, Sean, I'm sure everybody's head races to, well, where do I save $30 a month, right? Meeting notes, automated responses, those kinds of things. But it's more about, hey, now that I don't have to grow my own corn to eat over the winter, what other interesting things am I going to do with my life in modern society? So that's cool insight. Well, I think we're kind of wrapping up, gentlemen. I guess I'll turn it over maybe to you, Matt, first. Just overall impression, Inspire, state of the Microsoft partnership that you have over at Total Solutions, and maybe one or two things that are top of mind that we can leave with the audience.
The thing that resonated the most with me about Inspire and AI was, again, just my seat as technologist, but my background is not in computer science. For me, understanding like what AI is really, really hard. And so I love the idea of thinking about it as natural language is becoming the UI. That's one simple component about it. And the second component being that we have this predictive reasoning engine that when you start giving it natural language, it's just trying to predict what you want, right? Fast forward to the end of what you're trying to write as opposed to the start. And that's basically what it is, right? So it was really helpful conference for me this year. It helped me kind of break down a little bit, give me a push to experiment more on my own with some of these tools. Really think about strategically how our business is going to go about this, because it was a pretty strong call to action that we need to get on board to train with Microsoft on this journey and help bring customers along, which has always been our place in the market, right? We live out on that edge and help that become a reality for the clients. So it was definitely an inspiring Inspire for sure. And I'm very curious as to when we look next year at the conference, what sort of focus will AI have still in the conversation? Will we already see it change, and will it be as dominant? I don't know, but yeah, it's exciting times to live through. That's for sure.
Awesome, Sean. Same question. Where's your head at with regards to this year's Inspire and kind of the state of the business?
Yeah, for me, it's kind of showcasing Microsoft is clearly one of the, or if not the leader in the AI space in the marketplace overall. And so, I know Apex, I know Matt, you guys are heavily invested in your partnership with Microsoft. So it's an exciting time as partners to be on this journey alongside of them. It's exciting to talk to customers about these new products that not only Microsoft, but both of our organizations are coming to market as well, collaboratively. And like Matt said, we got to have a learner's mentality always, right? This stuff is coming out so fast. We have to constantly be learning, constantly be looking for new ways to solve problems with these technologies. And, a lot of work ahead, but exciting times as well.
No, that's great. And, Matt mentioned next year's Inspire. All I have to say about next year's Inspire is I hope it's together with you all and with our Microsoft counterparts and be able to go through this together. So, hey, thanks for your time today, guys. I'm going to do a couple of housekeeping items and wrap us up, but it's been a pleasure talking to you, and we'll have to do this again real soon.
Thanks,
Absolutely.
Steve.
Thanks, guys.
So that was amazing insight from Sean and from Matt around their take on Inspire this year, and we're going to sort of continue that momentum with Total Solutions and us here at Apex with an in-person summit in the Detroit metro area at Microsoft's MTC. Right, one of the best ways to showcase these solutions is to be behind the lines and with those guys over at the Technology Center. And so, Matt and team, Sean and his engineering team, participating with you as customers and really ensuring that, we're getting you the information you need, the education you need, the partnership you need to really keep driving these things forward. So I told you I'm going to talk to him again soon. It's not that far off. About a month away, we're going to be having our summit local to the area. We've got the registration link there. The guys at Total Solutions did an amazing job partnering with us and bringing this event together. So I'm looking forward to it. I know our teams are looking forward to it. And I just wanted to make sure that I shared it with you and the audience as a very unique opportunity to get back with your peer organizations and your peer leaders, with a couple of partners you trust, and spend an afternoon exploring the technology, exploring the solutions, and seeing what we can do together. So that's it for today. Thanks for joining our event, looking back at Inspire 23. Hopefully I'll see you before Inspire 24. And so with that, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.